The Jougan is no longer canon. I've been lying to you guys over the past videos that I've been making, and this chapter basically confirms it. The Jougan is not canon. This is what a lot of people are saying based off the spoilers and the information that is released about this upcoming chapter. But is this the truth? Have I just been talking about nonsense over these past few years regarding Boruto's Jougan, or is Boruto's Jougan actually canon? So first, let's actually discuss what is being said about Boruto's Jougan and why exactly people now, out of every moment in the past, are hyper-focused on the fact that the Jougan may not be canon. So what we do end up seeing in the spoilers is that Boruto ends up using the Byakugan. It is in the same eye that he is supposed to have his Jougan eventually in the story, but for right now, people are seeing that Boruto has been started to use the Byakugan and have now deemed that Boruto's Jougan is no longer canon. And the main reason why people believe this now out of every moment is because one of the arguments that were used in the past to prove that Boruto's Jougan was indeed canon is the fact that Boruto's Jougan, unlike what we saw in the past, unlike what we saw with the Byakugan, it doesn't require or show any veins. And when Boruto ends up using the Byakugan in this chapter, we see that Boruto indeed doesn't show any veins. So if that is the main argument why people say the Jougan is canon, then it means that the Jougan is no longer canon, as we have an argument and an instance where the Byakugan is not shown to have any veins. So that would mean that Boruto's Dojutsu in the first scene is not the Jougan, but the Byakugan. My personal argument and what I would say is that nothing in this chapter disproves the fact that Boruto has the Jougan. There is nothing special about this chapter, and in fact Boruto having the Byakugan really doesn't disprove anything, and the fact that Boruto's Byakugan may not necessarily show veins doesn't disprove anything, as we have seen in a previous arc. And I don't understand why people are hyper focused on Boruto using the Byakugan here when Boruto has used the Byakugan in the past. Boruto has used, or at least has been shown to have the Byakugan in the 5 versus code when he was using True Essence Karma for the first time. So him using it again after making a deal with Momoshiki, we have statements that show that Boruto has said that he feels like he can channel Momoshiki's power a lot better. So whether you believe that Boruto is using True Essence Karma or not, just like Kawaki is capable of tapping into Ishiki's Dojutsu in base and in version 1 Karma 2, Boruto should be able to do the same, as he has literally said that he can channel Momoshiki's powers a lot better. And Momoshiki himself has been shown to be able to use the Byakugan out of that same eye when he uses the Karma. So what is truly different here? And this is why I personally don't understand what anybody is saying regarding this. The only thing that this disproves is a very minor theory that I've heard other people say. I don't believe in that theory at all, but it is the theory that Boruto has the Jougan this entire time, and he has been hiding it. So now that we see that Boruto opens his eye and has the Byakugan instead, so it means that Boruto indeed never had the Jougan, it was just the Byakugan. Now this theory to me is a little bit dumb, especially at this point in the series, due to the fact that we have multiple instances where Boruto was near death, and if he wanted to deal with a character like Hidari, at the moment where he was really bloodthirsty and wanted to bring Sasuke back, he could have used the Jougan then. And when he was fighting versus Jura, he could have used the Jougan then and taken care of Jura at that point, depending on how strong the Jougan was. And especially with this factor here, why would Boruto have a power as strong as the Jougan, what we believe it to be, but not use it against Jura, but then rely on a deal with Momoshiki, which is a risky deal, to then go and fight Jura if he already has the Jougan as an option? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So this theory that people have obviously is disproved. It wasn't a viable theory at all. But now, when it comes to the Jougan itself, there is nothing that this chapter ends up revealing that removes any argument for the Jougan not being canon. So when you guys ask me the question, is the Jougan canon, I will go back to everything that I have said since the beginning. Now, one of the main things that has been a popular argument that has been used is the fact that we see that the Byakugan symbols are quite different from the one of the Jougan. When we look at every single instance where we have these Byakugan symbols, people activated the Byakugan, and we see this Byakugan symbol. Personally, this is not my favorite argument due to the simple fact that I'm not Japanese, so these symbols don't mean much to me. But if we do just inspect the symbols, you would actually see that they are quite different from the symbol that appeared when Boruto used his Dojutsu in chapter 1. When Boruto uses what I believe to be the Jougan, we see that he has his specific symbol around his eyes. We see this one right here is an onomatopoeia, essentially a symbol that is supposed to showcase sound. And when we see and compare Byakugan holders, you would see that there are 2 lines and then a line going in between them, and then we see additional lines around them. When we check Boruto using the Jougan, we don't see this similar symbol at all. And if you check Boruto using the Byakugan in this instance, maybe those symbols actually meant nothing, right? Maybe those symbols had no importance. But when we check Boruto using the Byakugan again, you would see that those same symbols appear. The 2 lines that are slashed by another, which showcases somebody using the Byakugan. But looking back again at somebody who is using the Jougan, we see that it is a completely different symbol, a completely different sound that is activated. Just like the Sharingan, when you activate it, the anime gave you a specific sound. And when the Byakugan was activated, you had one that was completely different. So will be for the Jougan. When the Jougan is activated, you will see a completely different sound, which is why we have this onomatopoeia that is placed in the manga panel to showcase such a difference. But that's not where the main argument ends, as if that was the only argument, it wouldn't really make the most sense. The main argument really lies on the canon material that has been given to us by the screenwriters, the scriptwriters, by Kishimoto, and by Kodashi. The first thing that we have to discuss is the fact that the scriptwriters themselves have said that the Jougan / the Pure Eye is canon. However, its abilities have not been laid out and have not been worked upon. It is something that is still new, and this is what we hear about early on in the releases of the anime. One thing that is said and is brought up all the time is the fact that we see that Boruto in the anime, he has the Jougan with black sclera around it. So the Jougan that we see here is not the actual Jougan. It is not canon. This is only canon to the anime and not the manga. But the thing I would say to that is that Ikimoto has said that they were in a rush. Kishimoto alongside him, they were in a rush when they created chapter 1, and thus there will be changes in designs that we do end up seeing later on in the series. And we have already seen this with Kawaki's Dojutsu, because if you go back to that first chapter, I don't know why anybody is saying it now, probably because it appeared in the manga first, but you would see, if you go back to chapter 1, you would see that we don't see Kawaki's Dojutsu. We don't see Kawaki's Dojutsu at all, and thus, so does it now mean that Kawaki never had this jutsu at all? No, it's just an example of the fact that we have such changes that have been made afterwards from this character design that was initially rushed. So it leans under the interpretation that yes, indeed, there will be changes to the things that we saw in that chapter, as things were not fully planned out. But another very important point that really just makes it 100% clear to me is that Kishimoto actually worked on the Nue arc. The Nue arc, that was the first arc that we really got in the Boruto series, where we have information that Kishimoto played a heavy role in the writing in that arc, even switching things, making sure things were alright. And then in that arc, guess what was the main focus and the main power of that arc? Apart from Nue, the main force, the one thing that helped Boruto out throughout the entire arc was the Jougan, by allowing him to see this negative energy when Nue was taking control of various different characters, allowing Boruto to go into various dimensions and come out of them safe and sound, also allowing Boruto to figure out Nue's weakness. That was a major part in that arc, and if Kishimoto ended up helping out in the writing, supervising, making changes, do you not think that he is aware of the Jougan? And do you not think that if he didn't want it to be there, he couldn't have made any changes? No. And one thing that just confirms it all to me, the fact that this anime material that we're seeing right now, showcased in the anime, correlates with the manga. as we have Kodashi here, that points to an arc where Boruto ended up going to the land of mist, where he ended up fighting versus some characters, and he ended up using the Jougan. And when we have an arc in the Boruto series, we have a clear mention of this fact, that we have Kodachi who says this week's chapter is connected to the anime version a bit. We have a Boruto who retells the fact that he went to the Hidden Mist on a field trip, and that was the entire premise of the arc in the anime. We have an arc that occurred in the anime that is being mentioned as part of the manga story, just showcasing the fact that the manga has already interlinked with aspects of the Jougan, as the Jougan was an ability that appeared in that arc. But the final thing to just disprove everything is the Otsutsuki panel. We have a panel where we have the Otsutsuki god conceptually, who showcases multiple different Jougans, and people like to be quite specific on paying attention to every detail to disprove the fact that the Jougan is canon. But when you look at this panel, one thing that is quite clear, that it is the exact eye that we saw Boruto use in the anime. We have white pupils, and we have the sclera around it being darkened, being black. And that's exactly what we're seeing in this page right here. Multiple eyes with white pupils and black sclera that fills the eye, just like the Jougan is described. And it being a power of the Otsutsuki god, who we are slowly starting to get introduced to, it makes a lot of sense that it is shown through this Otsutsuki god, as not only is Kawaki surprised when Boruto ends up using the eye, as Kawaki has seen Boruto with the Byakugan, so why would Kawaki be surprised when Boruto ends up using the Byakugan? It is because he has never seen the Jougan, and when the Jougan does end up being introduced, it will be at that point where Kawaki will be surprised, because wait, isn't this supposed to be the Byakugan? Why does Boruto have this completely different eye? And that is due to the fact that it is not the Byakugan, and it is thus the Jougan. So that's my personal opinion on the Jougan or not. That's what I believe to be the truth. But now that we have basically come to the consensus that the Jougan is canon, watch this video right here to learn more on how the Jougan could be key in Boruto's future and how he may awaken it.